during a civilian review board that discussed the incident.
He pulled in to the apartment complex, calling you, and pulled in the first available spot, which was prerogative. There's no speed involved. There's not even a level of reasonable suspicion articulated by my officer when I had to do follow-up investigation myself.
After the internal affairs investigation, the chief reviewed it and found it incomplete and unsatisfactory. He ended up requesting additional investigations multiple times because he disagreed with the analysis of his commanders. In the end, he claimed that Detective Bush simply made a series of poor cascading judgments and was unable to disengage, and that one of his big oversights was when the officer ran the vehicle's tags. The readout showed 2 people registered to the vehicle, Mello's mother, the one residing in Virginia Beach, and Mello's information. The officer failed to read the entire DMV report that showed that the complex they were in was Mello's residence. Furthermore, the vehicle had the same parking permit as every other vehicle in the parking lot.
The officer did not know the trespassing rules, did not know about the stickers, did not read the tag, and in this case, actually, all together is one mistake of human relations. And I thank God he's here, that this didn't go south.
There was more than enough evidence to conclude that Mello was a resident at the complex, but the officer either missed it or ignored all of it. The chief concluded that the evidence didn't support the allegation of bias-based policing, but noted that some of the officer's actions were improper and Detective Bush was held in violation of several departmental regulations.
It doesn't look like to me that you live here.
Why is that?
Why is that?
But the Civilian Review Board denied and returned the department's findings, making several suggestions on how to investigate the incident to enable them to make a final determination. The department took some, but not all, of the panel's investigatory recommendations, and after a review of their second investigation, the panel determined a second time that the FCPD's investigation did not adequately investigate the allegation of racial profiling involved in the incident.
On the request for review, which is really our focus here, because I'm looking at what our role is as a panel. Our role is to take the request for review and ask whether or not, address those issues, and ask whether or not, as to those issues, the record is thorough, complete, and accurate. So you have said to us that you believe that there was racial profiling. Then I'm turning to the record and saying, is the record complete and thorough and accurate on that issue? And I have to say, it's not thorough.
The chief defended his investigations and listed excuses for the investigations the department didn't complete, essentially refusing to commit to them.
Now he's moved. He's back here still watching.
Finally, the Civilian Review Board made several recommendations for the department, including incident tracking and training for officers. Links to the chief's review, the executive summary, and the reports by the Civilian Review Panel can be found in the description. And in the end, that's it. So it's up to you to make up your own mind. Let me know what you think about this situation in the comments down below.
have ID on you?
I do have an ID. Why do I need to?
First police officer has been convicted of failure to intervene, a new law in the Colorado books that says that police officers of force are legally required to intervene.
2 years after Aurora police officer John Hobart was caught on body camera video badly beating a trespassing suspect, now former Aurora police officer Francine Martinez was found guilty of not trying to stop the attack.
We, the jury, unanimously and beyond a reasonable doubt, find the defendant, Francine Martinez.
23rd, 2021, Martinez responded to a call for trespassing on South Parker Road. Within minutes, another officer, John Hobart, repeatedly pistol whipped and choked the suspect, Kyle Vincent. While Vincent cried out for help, at one point Hobart also pointed a gun at Vincent's head. Vincent was unarmed the entire time. She's right there. Prosecutors say Martinez stood by during the assault, despite her legal obligation to intervene in cases like this.
And if this isn't the case, where someone had a duty to intervene, then what is? Is there such a case? If that's not it, then why are we here?
And without warning, giving Martinez absolutely no time to intervene. The defense also argued that Martinez and Hobart were involved in a fierce fight, trying to arrest Vincent.
You know, if the suspect had attacked the police...
Hello.
So what's going on now? She still can't get access?
Well, she's past the firewall, but the password they sent us isn't working. So
I don't know what the firewall means.
They have. They have. That's what they say is what detected.
Okay, so I'm just gonna tell them to get off my system.
All right.
I want full access. Get it out. I can't keep going back and forth for 2 weeks already.
I know. I know I had the admin saying up to if you went to reset the password for it to send me an email, but nothing's coming to me, so that has to have been changed.
All right, let me tell them. Bye.
All right.
Officer, I bet you the police officer would be singing a different tune and would have had plenty of time to intervene and stop the suspect from attacking the police officer. But since it was a police officer attacking a suspect, the other police officer says, there was no time for me to intervene. There was no time for me to step in and stop a violent attack.
The 2-minute violent attacks. No time.
That there was no sick and Hobart were involved in a fierce fight, trying to arrest Vincent. And that there was no safe time.
A fierce fight where the guy was getting beat.
Says she's just standing there the whole time. You know that's not true. She is actively participating in this struggle. Yet they want to hold her to this impossible standard. They're asking her to do something superhuman.
Wow. The jury didn't buy that argument. Asking her to do something superhuman by, cops talk about being heroes all the time and being the ones to step up and protect you when you're in trouble. Who are you going to call when you need help? And now, the one time when somebody says, hey, she should have stepped in and helped, the attorney argues it would take superhuman powers to stop a bad cop, and you know what? It is a very difficult position to be in. It is a very difficult position for her to be in. And the reason is because police departments have a gang mentality. The blue line is a gang, and it has a very strong gang mentality. And you don't cross that blue line. You don't intervene with police officers who are breaking the law. You don't snitch on bad cops. And if you do, you're going to get run out of the department. You're probably going to get run out of policing altogether. And if you don't believe me, check out this story out of Florida. This video isn't new. It's from 2011. A lot of you have probably seen it. Some of you may know the outcome, what happened in the 8 months to a year that followed this. But I'm going to show you the video of what happened first, and then I will show you what the results were of a Florida police officer doing the right thing. It's a Florida Highway Patrol woman who witnessed a Miami-Dade police officer on the freeway doing about 120 miles an hour, turns on her lights to pursue him. I think the entire video is like 45 minutes long because I believe he fled for a long period of time. This is the last 2.5 minutes when he finally pulls over, and the highway patrol officer takes another police officer into custody for criminal speeding and felony fleeing and evading. And when she stops him, she treats him just like any other suspect on a felony stop, holding him at gunpoint and arresting him. Draws her gun. Felony stop. Just shocked. He's like, I'm a cop. How could you do this to me?
Yeah.
So Officer Lopez is the officer from Miami-Dade who was caught speeding. He pled no contest and was ordered to do 100 hours of community service and pay a $3,300 fine for the cost of prostitution. And pay $3,300 for the cost of prosecution. So initially he was only going to be suspended for a month, but the police chief started investigating a little deeper. His car had a GPS tracker on it and found that there were 53 times in September and October that this same officer was caught speeding on the freeway. On September 1st, 2011, he averaged 105 miles per hour. On October 12th, he averaged 90 miles per hour. And on September 4th, he averaged 120.86 miles per hour between Golden Glades and Cypress Creek North. So due to the fact that he was a habitual offender, the police chief did choose to terminate him. And if it weren't for the Florida Highway Patrol officer that finally pulled him over, held him at gunpoint, and arrested him, none of this would have likely come to light. So I'm sure you're guessing that the Florida Highway Patrol officer has probably been decorated and praised for catching a criminal in a badge, right? Wrong. So the name of the Highway Patrol officer who stopped a criminal cop is Donna Jane Watts, and she claims in a lawsuit that over the next 14 months, 88 police officers from 25 different departments looked up her driver's license information over 200 times. She also claims that she received phone calls. Some were pranks, others came off as threatening. She regularly received pizzas that she didn't order to her private home. She claims several cars stopped or idled in front of her home. Watts claims that she now lives in a state of fear, even going so far as to take extra caution while opening her mailbox, out of fear something dangerous might be inside. Her superiors don't think she'll ever be able to return to duty on the road, and if she got into a situation where she needed backup, she does not think that she would receive it. The fear, she claims, has forced her to live like a hermit, and she's considering moving. And you're probably assuming that it was at least an easy win for her on this lawsuit, right? Wrong. An appeals court decided in 2017 that the officers had not violated her privacy by illegally looking her up through the state system, because officers argued that she had pulled a gun on a Miami police officer, and therefore they wanted to be able to identify her for their own safety, and they needed to be able to see her picture. Could you imagine if one of us had committed a crime and a police officer ended up pointing a gun at us, and then we went and started using state systems to stalk the police officer that pointed a gun at us? This is the culture of policing in your government today.
Unalived.
Trooper Watts didn't see a police officer. She simply saw someone breaking the law and handled it accordingly. And for that, rather than being commended, she was terrorized and her entire career was destroyed. Then when she went to the judicial system to try to seek justice, they shot her down as well. Philosopher Frederick Bastiat said, when plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. Like we always say here, back the blue until it happens to you. And just because you're a cop doesn't mean it's not going to happen to you too.
That's right. Any other good videos come out while I was working?
The algorithm wants you hypnotized by the kaleidoscope of mad mainstream propaganda and mayhem. David Sirota from the Liverpool Lever, depends where you're from. We talked about bipartisan conversations. We talked about people on the left wanting to awaken. We talked about people on the